Alright, I wanted to show you the final 5 games of my brother's 15 games this week. And we're up against a previous rank 1 player, and he was almost, I think he was rank 2 this week as well. But he decided to go for rank 1 and he's dropped a little bit, but nevertheless, really good player. And we'll be able to see the current best meta team. And I'll talk about how, other meta teams you can play, and how it's kind of progressed over the last couple of weeks. And hopefully you can gauge something out of it. There is only one more week of rewards, I think, after this week. So I'm okay now with kind of revealing what I've been playing over the last couple of weeks and what you might want to play next week. So the interesting thing here, this is game 1. My brother is playing Dust Revenant, and we have the option to go into Revenant Inferno or Inferno Phantom with the Bulwarks. But for most of these games, actually I think for all of these games, we're going to stick with Dust Revenant, and we'll be able to see what the opponent is playing. I'm not going to attempt to say his name because I have no idea how you would pronounce that, so I'm just calling him the opponent for now. We'll explain what he's playing. He's playing, at the moment he's going Dust Slayer, which often wins him the first few rounds, but I'm not sure what the plan is here. I think a few people are playing this. It doesn't end up, spoiler warning I guess, it doesn't end up working for him, but we'll be able to see what some of the other top players are playing. But yeah, he's going Dust Slayer, so his range is currently bonded to his Spinning Guard the Hedgehog, and I think he goes into Inferno usually. Whereas my brother, I kind of know this matchup, so I said just stick with Dust Revenant, and that's kind of what he knows as well, so yeah, so you can see he swapped to Inferno now. I think he did mess up a little bit here, but he does this play in a later game as well, because you can see he doesn't have Revenant. I think he's meant to be Inferno Phantom here, but the key thing is here, the only thing that beats Dust Revenant, and this is the key takeaway, that I think a lot of people are missing in this meta, especially the last couple of weeks. The only thing that beats Dust Revenant is Inferno Phantom with the 3 Bulwarks, and they've got 3 air, 3 earth. We'll see him play it later, and he has a missing ingredient that I'll be able to point out. So yeah, the only team that beats Dust Revenant is Rhamphyre with Phantom, Inferno, and the Bulwarks, but there is a key detail to it. It doesn't always win, so I'll explain that when we get there, and that's how that's one of the meta shifts in the last couple of weeks that we've been able to capitalize on. And that's really if you're high ranked and you're wanting to stay high ranked when you get your 15 games done, because obviously it's very hard to maintain that when you need a win rate like extremely high. You kind of need to be a little bit ahead of the meta, or verse people that you can beat in mirrors that but a lot of the time they end up just copying you the game after, and it turns into a little bit more of a coin flip. So it's far better to be a little bit ahead of the meta, and maybe don't play your main until you know how you're going to counter these teams. So we can see here he eventually does go Inferno Revenant, and it just doesn't work. The Dust Revenant is just that little bit stronger, even if he has immune on his Rhamphyre. The 3-second immune, if you didn't know, gets rid of the dust debuff during the Omega, so the Omega still does full damage. However, yeah, like I said, it's not enough to counter Dust Revenant, only in the one scenario which I'll explain. The reason I know all this is because, I guess going back 3 weeks, Dust Revenant, the Inferno Phantom build with the Rhamphyre and the Bulwarks was the meta build, and once that was the meta build, the following week I was playing Dust Slayer actually, and that was beating it, so I was able to get my 15 games done with the Dust Slayer. A few hours later, Dust Revenant became actually a better team, so if I was to play a few hours later I would have been losing to that. So it is a little bit of luck and timing with this meta, with the kind of progression of the meta. So Dust Slayer is no good anymore, although we saw the opponent playing it earlier, so maybe there is something to it, but it didn't quite work out for him. So yeah, Dust Revenant, and then the meta shifted to, actually shout out to Wolverine777. He actually I don't know if he came up with the build, but he, I guess, inspired myself to find the counter to Dust Revenant using Inferno, and we'll see that in one of the games. The opponent tries to use it, but yeah, like I said earlier, he has a missing ingredient there, which I'll explain once we get there. So if you didn't want to play Dust Revenant, you just don't like the matchups, you know, eventually when this becomes more meta, it's going to be mirrors. There is a way to beat this with Inferno Phantom. So that was game 2, and yeah, it didn't quite work out for him. This is game 3. This time he's gone back to Dust Slayer, so he still, I guess he still thinks he can win with whatever that meta build is that he's trying, where he goes Dust Slayer, puts the bulwarks down, and then he goes into, yeah, now he's going into Inferno Phantom. And this is the next meta build that I guess either me or Wolverine popularized, where you put the 20 cost immune down on the Rhamphyre, and that gets rid of the dust debuff, and he does full damage. It doesn't quite work unless you put down the Lynxes, and with his build he doesn't have options for the Lynx, neither do I. The deck's too packed with other stuff, you can't fit these upgraded bulwarks in. So what he needs to do here is replace his Grokkos with the tank Lynxes, the Stoic Lynxes, I think they're called. And you'll need 2 of them at the back. And it just makes your tank strong enough where the Lynxes are getting their stuns, their AoE damage off, and they're not dying quick enough where the Revenant buff really takes over. Because right now he does have those Grokkos, yes he has 3 Bulwark, yes they're tanks, but they die too quick, and Revenant, you know, it just flows, those Revenant shields just flow pretty much through the whole game, and they just negate that Inferno and the Rhamphyre damage. And you'll see this play out here, even though he's got the double Omega on his Rhamphyre. And you can see I mean it is close, you can see how the Rhamphyre, well, I guess it didn't really turn out close, but yeah, like I said, he needs those Lynxes at the back. So if you're gonna try counter Dust Revenant, you don't want to play Dust Revenant, you can play Inferno Phantom, but you're gonna need those upgraded Lynxes. You can see the damage there, I think in overtime, yeah. Usually end up winning these in overtime because they're Revenant shields. So I hope that explains kind of 2 of the meta builds and how it's kind of progressed over the last couple of weeks. This is game 4, I believe, and he's just given up on what he was trying to do, and he's just mirroring now. Actually, I think game 2 he did mirror. He lost the mirror. He didn't place the grit, the AoE grit augment, the 20 cost. That's the key difference here. I think he played clumsy on crit. So if you're going to play these mirrors, you're playing Dust Revenant. Make sure you've got the grit, the AoE grit to all your Illuvials. That'll be the difference here. So he is mirroring that, and now it's, you know, it's turning into a bit more of a coin flip this match. But we'll see what he does in the later rounds. I can't remember if he... So yeah, my brother takes Revenant here, which, yeah, I'm not sure what's better here, but he ends up getting the Grit Resolve, and he puts it on his Familiar, and it becomes pretty much unkillable because all the damage from my brother here is coming from auto attacks, essentially, because Dust gets rid of all the Omega power, so the Omegas aren't really doing anything. Brother ends up winning in overtime because he placed the... So yeah, the other thing to mention in this mirror, that round 4, placing the Apon down often wins you that round, but you're gonna have to sell that Apon to get the Geyser down on this round. So you're a little bit behind in mastery points, but you end up winning that 4th round usually. A bit of a mistake there by my brother. I think He probably should have just gone untargetable on the geyser instead of the heal at 40% HP, because he died before he even got an Omega off. And yeah, he's trying to get the attack speed slow off on everyone here. But I think the opponent here decides to actually switch to Inferno. So I guess the other key takeaway here is, yeah, I suppose which I've mentioned before, Inferno Revenant doesn't beat Dust Revenant. Usually. Like, I don't think it's favourable. So again, the only thing that's beating Dust Revenant is Inferno Phantom Bulwarks, upgrading the Grokkos to the Lynxes late game. Cool, yeah, he does switch to the Rhamphyre here, and we'll see how it plays out. Even with the unkillable Familiar, I believe he loses. This round it might go to overtime. Actually, no, I think he loses this round and then he maybe wins the next one. Oh, that's right, his Ranger got stuck. It's a close round though. That Familiar isn't dying unless it's overtime. So I really need to kill his Ranger here, and ideally get that Endurance Matrix, I think it's called, off on as many as he can. Just puts down the energy gain in everyone, and buffing the Ranger I think he is probably pretty crucial. Leech is always good, and Omnivamp on the Ranger is not a bad move either. Yeah, so final round here, he does get the attack speed slow off on pretty much all the targets. The Ranger didn't snipe out his Ranger, which would have been GG at that point. And he's also just living on 1 HP. On 1 HP there, so you can see how this would have been. It could have gone way worse for the opponent here. And he still loses, so although his Rhamphyre did kind of whiff his Omega, but yeah, you can see how hard it is to protect the Ranger. And I think he did have the augment advantage there, maybe, I don't know, the 3 Revenant's pretty good. But brothers, 1 game away from taking rank 1 from me. And lucky for him, there is actually a top opponent playing at in this time zone. Final round of the final game, and this ended up just being a straight up mirror. Maybe a legendary augment diff here, because he did get that augment that gives the furthest enemy mega power and energy regen, and he got it on his Gyro. And his Gyro has immune, so his Omega is doing full damage, and he's got that Omega buff from that legendary augment. So my brothers, yeah, it's hard to tell whether the Geyser or the Adores is doing more work here, but the Adores is popping Spore and Leecher quite frequently. And obviously the heals, with Dust, the heals aren't maybe doing as much. Whereas Geysers, especially going this late, probably getting a lot of value. Although he hasn't really cast a lot. I think it was more the Legendary Orb difference. If we probably check the damage chart, his Gyro probably did a ton. So there you have it. It didn't quite get rank 1 off me, but it was a good series there. And I hope you learned a little bit about the meta. I'll link this team that my brother was playing down below. And I'll link the Lynx build as well. So if you want to play just straight Inferno and beat Dust Revenant, you can go the Lynx build. Just keep in mind that Lynx build with the Rhamphyre does lose to Revenant. It probably loses 60-70% of the time to Revenant Inferno. So you want to have the team I'll link you will have that inbuilt in it. So if they switch to Revenant Inferno, you can switch to that later as well. But if you appreciate that, make sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.